Hey, you're listening to the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast, where you'll learn why you're feeling so burnt out, some insights and hacks to get you along this entrepreneurial journey. I'm Kylie Ota, former oil and gas manager turned health coach, life coach, and business mentor for female entrepreneurs just like you and help them heal and recover from burnout. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Burnt Out Entrepreneur podcast, where we explore the journeys of entrepreneurs who have triumphed over burnout and rediscover their passion for success. I'm your host, Kylie Ota, and joining us today is Tess Jewell-Larsen, a fellow coach who helps female entrepreneurs and high achievers go from overwhelmed and exhausted to balanced and thriving. So today, Tess is going to teach us the importance of cultivating a supportive relationship with ourselves and prevent ourselves from falling back into burnout, right? Once we're out of the hole, we want to stay out of that hole. And so to do that, she's going to be sharing some mindful habits to check in with ourselves daily. So important. And how to create moments of deep rest, also important, because we need to heal our bodies and our minds. And then finally, we're going to be teaching you how to implement sustainable rituals, right? That's the key to burnout, like having something that's sustainable. We're not going to go overboard. Like for our powerhouses out there, we're not going to go overboard and go, wow, and, eventually burn out. So no, these are going to be sustainable rituals to meet ourselves right where we are. Like, we don't have to be perfect to start. We can start right here where we are. And that way we can stay fueled for this entrepreneurial journey. Because, right, it's a journey, right? It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Tess to the show.
Hello. Oh, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
It is so wonderful. This whole podcast and show that you have, it's just so important that we look at these different points, right, that we can do to support ourselves when we are entrepreneurs, because there is a lot that goes on.
So
Good
much.
and not always so great.
And I love that you're teaching women how to manage those ups and downs, because, right, there's a cycle. I mean, we as women have cycles too, right? So how to manage those cycles, like when we're at the bottom of our cycle and like we're feeling burnt out, we need more energy at the bottom of our cycles, our feminine cycles, but when we're at the top of our game, like sometimes we feel like we have to stay at the top of our game. And if we do, fall down or digress, or we hit a rough patch, sometimes we feel like we have to beat ourselves up, in order to, or we keep raising the bar, keep moving the carrot forward, and we just hit the next goal.
Yeah.
And it's like, girl, when are you gonna rest? When are you gonna stop and smell the roses? Like, enjoy your success. Like, I had a coach once that she was like, okay, like, you hit that milestone. Now, what are you going to do today to celebrate yourself?
Yes.
And it took me so many times for her to tell me that, like, oh, I hit a milestone today. I need, for us to do it for ourselves. Like, we need to get reminded to take care of ourselves. Because growing up, I don't know about you, but like growing up, I was that kid whose parents kept moving the carrot forward. And then I got used to moving my own carrot forward. But I mean, it's good, right? It helps you move up the ladder in corporate. It, you're looked upon as someone who's driven and someone who's like a go-getter. But at the end of the day, when I was coming home, I'm like, and I was a single mom for like 8 years during my career when I'm trying to move up the ladder. And then I realized I wasn't feeling it at work. And then some on the side, trying to build a side hustle business because I wanted to leave my job. So I'm over here like burning it at both ends. Trying to be 100% at my career, 100%, it was in network marketing. So 100% the network marketing, like I desperately wanted to replace my income so that I could quit corporate. And then it was like, I didn't realize I was burnt out until I got remarried. And my husband was like, oh, because he was a shift worker. I was a shift worker. He was a shift worker. And he's like, I've been shift working myself for 17 years. I don't have those same symptoms that you have. It's like, there's something wrong with you physically. I want you to go to the doctor. And it took me about 3 months to call and make the appointment because I was too busy, you know?
Yep.
Then
Yep, I
from
do.
there, it was like another like year-long journey to completely heal and recover. And then at that point, my doctor was like, cool, you're healed. And if you go back to that lifestyle, basically he said, I can't help you because I don't know where
Yeah.
you're going to be if you go back to living that lifestyle. And then I chose to just make, my business my full time. So now that you've heard my journey, let the audience hear yours, because it's so important that we get to see, what burnout looks like. I know what burnout looked like for me. I didn't know I was burnt out until, my doctor had to tell me. So yeah, tell me how you figured out you were burnt out and the steps that you took to get yourself, back on the path.
I think it's important first that like we acknowledge that it's a journey. I like that you keep calling it a journey, right? Because there's ups and downs. So even though when you're like, you're healed, right? Like other things pop up and we like get back into that, like, oh, I've got to do this. I got to keep going. I've got to get to the next point. Like I was raised very much of, you can sleep when you're dead, right? Like just keep going, keep going, keep going. Like that was literally a phrase that was told, my grandpa to my dad, my dad to me. And that's how they were raised. So there's nothing, I'm not saying that there's something wrong with that per se, right? It's a lifestyle, and I think it's a very American thing as well, right?
Yes.
Just keep going, pull yourself up by your bootstraps sort of thing, and yeah, so like I really identify with that. And my story is somewhat similar. Like I was pushing myself at work, and not listening to myself of really what I wanted, right? And I was just like thinking, okay, I'm just going to do this because this is what I should be doing, right? I should just be working, even though I don't really enjoy my job, and even though whatever, like it pays the bills, my colleagues are fine, yeah, I live the life that I want to be living right now, so cool.
Right.
But I wasn't listening to how I was responding to it, like physically, mentally, right? And so I have a history of struggling with anxiety. Started when I was a really young kid. I'm very good at getting stuck in my head. And that I had sort of in university, I was getting better at sort of managing that. But then later on, when I started, getting to work and like, yeah, no, got to keep going, got to keep going. And that was starting to appear again. Like my struggles with my anxiety, was appearing again. And I was finding myself exactly that, burning out, but like not acknowledge, like not noticing it, which is what you said as well. I think on so many of us, we don't notice when we're in it, right? We don't put these symptoms together as, oh, this is burnout. Like I was, crying on the kitchen floor, just having these major panic attacks, not knowing what to do with my life, like, oh my gosh, like how can I continue, sort of thing, like it was some dark moments there. I'm smiling now about it, but it was not smiling matters at the time, right? Like
Yeah.
it was dark. And I was becoming a very negative person. I'm not a negative person. I'm a very positive person. But I was very negative. I was becoming very negative, and I was taking that out on my family, on my friends, and they were like, something's not right here. Like this is a progression that's not good. And Tess maybe start looking at it. But at the time I was like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm not that negative. That's not me.
Right.
But
Or
then
you're
I
looking
said,
at all the things that, like, I'm a good job. Like, why am I, like counting all your blessings, so to
yeah,
speak, right? Like,
yeah,
I got it all
exactly.
check marked. You're like, my life's great.
Exactly.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. And you can always think, oh, I could do these other things, and so I did, like you, like I started, doing stuff on the side, and it just, and then COVID hit.
Uh,
And like many of us, it really just sort of derailed things, and in some pretty nasty ways. But looking back, in some ways I'm kind of thankful for that, because it was this wake up call for me that I could not continue on the way I was continuing, right? And I had to make a change because I was literally falling apart mentally, physically. I injured myself really badly, and I couldn't move for a while. Like it was bad. And, and it was just like, why am I doing this to myself? Why am I absolutely putting myself on the floor and not picking myself up, not listening to these cues, right? Because it was my body saying, no, you've got to change, Tess. And my brain was just going, no, I can keep going. I can keep going. And it's like,
Right.
it reached a point when it was just like, I cannot keep going. I cannot keep going. And so
Right.
I had, for my mental health, for my physical health, I decided for me that I had to quit my job. That does not mean that whoever's listening to this, like you don't necessarily have to do that. Like if you have the support around you, if you have tools, you don't have to get to that point where like you have to take that time for yourself, right? But I let myself get to that point. And
Right. Like that whole podcast is about letting people know, like, these are the signs and the symptoms so that you don't get to stage 4 burnout. On one of the episodes I talked about, there are different stages of burnout, and where Tess and I was when we discovered that we were burnt out, we were already stage 4. It was affecting us physically, is affecting our hormones, our endocrine system had shut down, so we were in that space. And I think, when we're talking about burnout online, that's what people think. It's like, oh, when everything shuts down, then I'm burnt out. It's like, no. There are 4 stages of burnout, like catch it early, right? My friend recently got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And it was like she got the diagnosis and she was already in stage 4. Like there was no progression. And so she's fighting a battle right now, for her health and all of that. But, there's a lot of people who catch cancer. Like my mom, she caught it early in stage 1. So she got to do a little bit of treatment and she's fine. So there's
my mom
different,
as well.
yeah, there's different stages of, health issue. And where Tess and I were, we were extreme. We were stage 4. Where some of you are now listening to this, hopefully you're not in stage 4, but if you're in the earlier stages, like this is your sign. Like please listen to what we were saying today. And like Tess is going to talk to us today about how to listen to our bodies and how to be in tune with our bodies and how to really hear what our body is telling us about like where we are physically, where we are mentally, and like kind of do it's kind of like doing if we're talking about breast cancer, like doing a breast self-exam. Like you can do these things.
Exactly.
No, you don't have to go to the doctor, get a full endocrine panel done, and then figure out your cortisol is shot, your adrenals are shot. You don't have to do all of that. Like this is your, self-check exam. Like we're going to talk about all of that today. So that's a spoiled,
I really
but
I like that image that you have of the, like we would as, to self-check for breast cancer, you every so often. That's exactly what we need to do. We need to start reconnecting with ourselves. And for me, at least, this is how I took those first steps out, right? I started reconnecting with myself and I started, so on sort of the side thing that I was doing is I was teaching yoga. And I was like, I had this yoga practice and I was doing it mainly for fun. It wasn't really like a job at the beginning. And it was just like, it's something I really enjoy doing. I want to share it with other people, and it helps my practice progress. And then like when I was getting to that point, I was like, I'm going through these motions of yoga, but I'm not actually doing yoga. Because what is doing yoga? It's connecting with yourself. It is loving yourself, right? And I wasn't doing that. I was just pushing through. I was just going through the motions like everything else I was doing in my life, right? And it's not always easy. Oh, especially when you're so disconnected, it is not easy. It's like, you know, like we were both saying, like looking back, we're like, I will say, oh yeah, we were doing this, this, and this, and this. These were our symptoms. But when you're in the middle of it, you're like, I don't know, you know? And so
Yeah.
just taking little tiny steps, and that little tiny step might be, you know, in the morning, asking yourself, hey, how am I doing? How am I doing physically,
Yeah.
you know, and then scanning through your body, like noticing your body. And sometimes that's not easy, right? Sometimes because we're so disconnected, we don't even have that. So maybe just taking a moment to just kind of give yourself a little hand massage, right? Or a foot massage, or like when you're putting your, you know, your lotion on in the morning. This is something I do. I give myself a little face massage.
Oh,
And like, you know, I
nice.
do little tapping like on the top of my head. And then I like bring the fingers down from like the peak of the forehead down into the temples, and then sort of around the eyes, and then under the eyes, above the lip, below the lip, along my jaw, down my neck, and then onto my sternum. And then just kind of pause for a moment and just kind of scan, let that kind of go through the whole body. Great way to just pull myself into my body. And then
Yeah.
also it helps me check, you know, it helps me kind of go, okay, how is everything feeling? Um, and this is just, you know, it's a couple minutes, right? It's not even that,
Yeah.
like, you know, and that's when I'm getting myself ready for the morning. So it's not like I'm doing something extra per se, but
Yeah.
it gives back to me, and it helps me give me that time to really, you know, tune in and say, okay, what do I need today? What's a little something that I can give back to myself today?
Yeah.
And it's just these little tiny steps. It doesn't have to be a huge gesture, right? Like it can be really great to take that time off of work, like your doctor was saying, like, yes, we got you healed. If you go back to the lifestyle that you had before, so you can go, you know, to a holiday, and you can have be wonderful, and you can go on these wonderful yoga retreat, and then you come back and you're like jumping straight back into the life you had before, you're gonna go to the same spot.
Right.
Because you're
Right.
not taking those times for yourself. You're not really listening. You're not taking that time to learn how to communicate with yourself in the first place, and then to listen to that communication. And that communication can be scary. Like, I want to be really honest with
Yes.
this. Like, it can be scary. And so
Yes.
if you're starting to communicate with yourself, and there's stuff that's coming up, and you don't know how to deal with that, please reach out to someone that can support you, whether
Yeah.
that's a therapist, a yoga therapist, a coach, like whoever it is, a family member, a friend, you know, just reach out and say, like, hey, I'm, you know, I'm doing this, and it's scary, because it can be very scary, because we start to open things up that we've been holding in for a long time, you know, and because we hold these thoughts in our bodies, we hold our emotions in our bodies. It's not woo woo. This is
Yeah.
science, right? Like,
Yes.
we, you know, when you have stressful situations, your amygdala turns on. This then connects with your hippocampus, which, you know, both of these things are in your brain, right? And your
Yeah.
hippocampus is like a little filing cabinet, and it takes these experiences and it stores them in there, and then something else comes up and it re-registers, and it goes back and forth, and it starts, you know, bringing these things into your cells, into your body. and
Mhm.
and this is where, you know, trauma can start coming, because it's going back and forth over and over and over again, and you're not able to process it, right? Because
Yep.
we ingest everything. We ingest our surroundings through our proprioceptive system. We ingest food, we ingest water, we ingest emotions, we ingest what other people tell us, right? And when we cannot digest it in a good
Mm.
way, then it sits in us and it gets
Oh,
stuck in us.
yeah.
Whether this is through physical tension, whether it's through rumination, right? And then it's all a cycle, it's all connected. So when we
Yeah.
take those little moments to start to unpick little by little, right? It can be
Yeah.
scary, of course it can, because we're holding a lot.
Oh, yeah, totally. And I wanted to go back to what you said about like the disconnection, because I feel like being disconnected from our bodies is a trauma response,
Oh,
right? Right when we're
definitely.
disconnected, it's like, oh, okay, if I just ignore that, then it will go away and I can still continue to function. Like that's how I lived the majority of my life. When I was going through my breakup with my narcissistic husband, you know, I had to disconnect. Because right, if I was carrying these wounds into the workplace, I would break down. So
Yeah.
I had to create that disconnect in order to survive, in order to function at my day job. And
Yeah.
fun, like he worked there too. So, right, I more so I had to keep up the front. Like, oh,
Yeah.
like, no, this does not bother me. You're not affecting me. I'm fine. But on the inside, I was dying. But I had learned, I mean, not just in my adult years, like I had learned in my childhood how to disconnect, how
Yeah.
to be this person in this space and put on a happy face for everyone because that's what they needed to see. Oh, because my parents divorced when I was 2. So everyone wanted to know, like, are you okay? I'm like, I'm fine. Just leave me alone. Like, even though I wasn't completely fine or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I was told that, okay, being like expressing your emotions, like your negative, I'm saying non-happy emotion is
Mm-hmm.
affecting me as a parent. So I got the vibe. Do not show me those feelings of yours. Just be happy and then everything will be okay. If Kylie is happy, mama will be happy, daddy will be happy, and everybody will be happy. So,
Mm-hmm.
okay, Kylie, you need to squish, right? You need to
Mm-hmm.
hold everything down so that everyone around you will feel
Yeah.
better about
Yeah.
all the things. Like, I don't know, raise your hands. I want to say raise your hands in the chat, but it's just us today. But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If
Yeah. Definitely.
this is you,
Definitely.
like I know
Definitely.
so many
You
women
know,
who have.
our bodies and our nervous system, it does what it does because it loves us. It doesn't do it to attack you, right? So like when your body is doing these things, when it's shutting parts of you off, it's because it's doing it to protect you. Now, is it always beneficial how it does it? Maybe not, right? In that moment, yes, definitely. But we tend to hold on to that longer than we need to. And that's when it starts being not so great, right? So
Yeah.
so getting that help is a great way to start to release what you do not need to be holding on to anymore, to let go of what you cannot digest.
Yeah.
And and to start coming back into yourself, into your truth, into your voice, into your own empowerment. And it takes time. This is not this is not like here's a magic pill and it goes away.
Yeah.
Right? Like everything that we are, we're like, here, like the onion analogy, you're like an onion, and your inner self is at the center of that onion, and all of your experiences, everything that you go through, everything people say to you, everything, absolutely everything, it starts building these layers one on top of the other.
Yeah.
And it takes time to start unpeeling those layers and deciding, is this something that I want to keep? Is this something that I can let go? Is this something that I still need to process? And sometimes we can process that on our own. We need help, whether that's through, as I said, through a therapist, through a yoga therapist, through a coach, depending on where you are in that journey, right? And it is, it's important that we acknowledge that it's not a bad thing to say we need help, you know and also it's okay to have emotions. It's very
Yeah.
important that we have a range of emotions. Happiness is not just being quote unquote happy.
Yeah.
Happy is being able to experience everything. We're we have different emotions for a reason, and that's okay. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Cherish all of them, because they're all important. And it is, I think so much in our society we're taught that emotion isn't a good, right? We need to put on the happy face. Just need to deal with it, as the British say, keep calm and carry on, right?
Right.
Like it's it sure, yes, keep calm in a way, pause, have that internal dialogue with yourself, allow yourself to work through things in a way, at least to settle things down a bit, just take a couple of breaths, whatever it is that you need, to then respond in a supportive way that's there from wisdom, right? And not there just from reaction.
And I, going back to what you said earlier about, your your grandfather to your father said, I'll sleep when I'm dead. And that was imprinted upon you. It was also imprinted upon me, and though, so when we're telling people, especially, so Tess is a powerhouse archetype for those of you who are listening. So right, especially for powerhouses, like that, I'll sleep when I'm dead is kind of like the motto for the powerhouse, right?
Oh yeah.
And so when we're here, we're saying these things like, oh, you need to rest, you need to, I bet some of them are thinking like, well, that's easy for you to say because, but
It's
no,
not.
we're speaking from the point of view where, yes, like the I'll sleep when I'm dead has been imprinted upon us. And, the carrot has been moved, the bar is always raised. Okay, you hit this level, good. Now here's the next. Like always building on that self-improvement and reaching the next level, like getting to your next. And it's like, when do you have time to sit down and rest? And if you're imprinted with this, I'll sleep when I'm dead, resting is like a kiss of death for you,
Totally.
right? And it really takes this reconditioning, like you said, working with a coach, working with a therapist to recondition the brain to say it like, no, like what you have learned previously, like what protected you previously so that you would not catch the wrath of your grandfather or father. Like the sleep when I'm dead protection is gone. We need to now implement a rest for protection mode,
And just
rest. Yeah. If you want to go ahead and explain a little more about the parasympathetic and the rest and digest, the different, like, I think the audience would appreciate that too.
Yes. Okay, so our nervous system has two main parts. It's the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous systems. And the sympathetic nervous system is your fight, flight, freeze, or tend and befriend as well. And what it is it's the nervous system that activates when your body's picking up that the situation isn't right for whatever reason, and it needs to get you to move out of there. It needs to or fight this situation. And then we also have, when it goes kind of overload, then you go into the freeze, right? And you're like, I don't know what to do. That's like the dorsal response of it. And then you have the parasympathetic, which is your calming response. And so it's both of these are good in your body. Once again, like your body reacts the way it does with love. And in small doses, the sympathetic nervous system is very good, right? Because it helps push you forward. It helps you get things done. It helps get you out of scary or difficult or whatever situations that you need to leave. And the idea though is that after you get out of that, then the parasympathetic nervous system comes in and you calm and relax and okay, I'm fine. And so just to kind of give it to you as sort of in another sort of idea, imagine you've invited some friends over for some wine, right? And you're like, I want to show you this amazing bottle of wine or whatever drink it is, whether you drink wine or not, this great bottle of whatever it is that you want to drink with you and your friends, right? You have it out and you're like, oh yeah, let me show you this bottle of wine. And you accidentally knock the bottle of wine with your hand. So what do you do initially? What's your first reaction? Probably go, right? So you're taking this big breath of air in. So that's your body going, I need to get set and ready, to grab this bottle. And then probably, your instincts will jump in and they'll like your muscles will thrust your arms forward to grab this thing. Hopefully you catch it, right? Let's imagine that you catch this bottle, right? And you're like, oh. So you take that big exhale out. And that is the calming response of the body, right? Going, I'm okay. And this situation is okay. So just to kind of point it out, because I want to show that our body, our physical body, is very much connected with these things, not just your brain. Your brain is what is sending out signals. First off, it's like your muscles and your skin and everything that's picking up these things, right?
Right.
And then it's your brain going, oh, I need to do this. So it's sending signals out to different parts of your body. It's starting to release different hormones, cortisol, for example, as you mentioned earlier. And to get that situation to a point where you can then rest. And then when you're able to rest, your body, your exhale is connected to your parasympathetic nervous system. This is sending signals to the rest of your body when that exhale is extended that, oh, I'm okay. Which is why, when they say, take a deep breath when you're stressed out or whatnot, because that deep breath out is what is acknowledging to the body, hey, everything's going to be okay. Right. And so it is very much this beautiful connection between our mind and our body, and it is not separate things.
Yes. I'm so glad you explained it. Oh, that was such a good explanation. My goodness. Yeah. And that's what I want people to realize, right? Our minds and our bodies are connected. And like I always say, for those who listen to me, your brain as a CEO, like this is what's managing your business, right? As a CEO of your business, this is what's making all the decisions in your business. And if you're coming, if you're always in the sympathetic and you're like, and you're making these decisions from that side, of the street, it's like, no wonder you're always, you feel like you're always on the go. And no wonder you're having a hard time putting everything down at night. No wonder you're suffering from insomnia, because your parasympathetic is like, or your sympathetic is like, and
yeah, exactly,
setting off this alarm. And I know I've been there where if your to-do list is longer than your arm, right, we can probably raise both hands. But if your brain doesn't know how to shut it off at night, right, and you're like, okay, I need to get all of these things done on my to-do list before I can actually rest, right? Like the whole sleep when I'm dead. Like, well, I'm from the camp where if your chores weren't done, you didn't get to watch TV, you didn't get to relax.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Yeah.
So like if you're, especially as an entrepreneur, so many things need to get done in our business. So, right, if at the end of the day, you still have things on your to-do list, like you're still in that fight mode, like I got to get everything done.
Yeah.
No wonder you can't rest. And it's not that you don't try to rest, right? You're like, that's where my body was. My body physically could not sleep longer than 6 hours. My doctor's like, yeah, in order to recover where you're at, in order for your cortisol to recover, you need to sleep 9 to 10 hours a night. I was like, how do you do that? Like, and I tried, and for whatever reason, my body just physically could not get the sleep that it needed, because it was
still on. It was still on that sympathetic. And so but there are things that we can do, right? There are things that we can do to ground ourselves, to pull us back into the present moment. And I like to point this out, that when we are present, fully present in this moment, stress does not exist. Our stress exists in the past and it exists in the future. So when we keep focusing on the past and we keep focusing on the future, that is where our stress is. When we're able to come back into the now and really be mindful of what is happening right now, that is where there's like that bliss, that awe moment, right? And I think we've all had those moments where like all of a sudden you see like this, I don't know, I live in a city, so I'll be walking down the street and things will just clear out in my head, and all of a sudden I'll see this beautiful building and I'll be like, whoa, never noticed how beautiful that building is. Is the light hitting it in just a way? Like, what is it? But it's not, the building's always been there. It's because I finally came into that present moment and my whole being just went, oh, look at the beauty around me. And we can do that. We can work on bringing that in. It takes effort. It takes time. It is not an instant pill, right? And it's that constant communication with yourself, learning with yourself, like to constantly come back, as we were saying at the beginning, you know, that self check-in. Have that little self check-in physically, mentally, emotionally, with compassion, right? And then when you have those moments and you're still up here in your stress, right? To give yourself little things to do to bring yourself back into the present. You know, that can be by using your senses. So just, you know, very simply, I don't know if you brought this on before, but like, you know, using the 5 senses in your hand, you know, just like looking, okay, 5 things, okay, what 5 things can I see? 4, what 4 things can I hear? 3, what 3 things can I feel or touch? 2, what 2 things can I smell? 1, what 1 thing can I taste? Right? And if, you know, for whatever reason one of these senses doesn't fit with you, that's fine, like let it go, but use your other senses, right? Or your breath, you know. And I start with senses because it is important that we come back into an acknowledgement and grounding before we start focusing on the breath. Because at least in my experience, when I'm freaking out and having my, you know, these anxiety attacks, focusing on my breath is the last thing I can do. So grounding first, you know, and maybe that's like I said, through the senses, maybe that's sort of doing some rebounding. So it's just kind of like jumping up and down, shaking your body out, releasing it from the body, you know, and then bringing into the breath of, you know, starting, as I said earlier, your inhale is what's connected to the sympathetic. Your exhale is what's connected to your parasympathetic. So your inhale's the fight flight, your exhale is the calming. And so when we start to even out the breath, even just evening it out, right, our body starts to go, oh, okay, I'm okay. And then little by little, maybe start to extend the exhale. Okay, yeah, no, I am present, right? And so, you know, we can do these things once again by using tools to focus our attention on it instead of just noticing the breath, because sometimes that can be very, very activating, very scary, you know. So using tools like a hand meditation where you bring your index finger to the base of your thumb. If everyone wants to try this, watching this, so you bring your index finger to the base of your thumb, and as you inhale, you trace up the base of the thumb, and as you exhale, you trace down. And then you take the thumb to the base of the index finger, inhaling up, and then exhaling down. And then to the middle finger, going up with the inhale, exhaling down, ring finger, and then pinky. You can keep going through the hands. If you want to, you can move on to the other hand. You can do both hands together. But I like it because it's also very much like, you know, your thumb is the first thing that you do and it's short, right? And then little by little, you start making longer, you know, motions. And then, you know, you kind of start to going, you know, so you're coming back into yourself. You're using your senses because you're feeling that. You maybe even hear it, right? You could hear it, you could listen for it, you know, so it's using all of those things. And then you're also matching it with your breath. So your body is your tool, right? We can heal through our bodies. We can heal through our breath. Our breath is the one thing that we have that isn't medication that can start slowing down our heart rate, right? And so it's beautiful because our bodies are here to support us. And yes, they can get us into these things, but they can also bring us back. And it's just taking that time, those little tiny moments throughout your day to come back in and have that check-in.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. These are such good tips, but I do know that you have something special for our listeners, something that they can do every day, like a daily check-in.
So yes, daily check-in, as we're talking about, right? Constantly bringing us back. So maybe you do this more often than you check for, you know, your breast for
yeah.
for any bumps that you might have in there. I like to do this at the beginning of my day. And so, you know, I just take a few moments, as I said, you know, maybe when I'm like putting on my lotion, just taking that moment to tune into me. Maybe it's when I'm taking a shower, right? So it's like, it's sometime in the morning and I ask myself, how am I? How am I
Mm.
feeling physically? How am I feeling mentally, emotionally? And then I ask, okay, so this is how I'm feeling. What one thing can I give myself today?
Mm.
And plan in 10 minutes during the day to give myself that one thing. So if I wake up in the
Mm.
morning and I'm exhausted and I'm just like, oh my God, I can't do this. So, I'll say, okay, so I'm going to give myself at some point today when I can, maybe that's right then in the morning, or maybe it's like midday. And I will give myself 10 minutes and I will maybe put my legs up a wall, right? To let my
Mm.
body fully relax. I might do something like a yoga nidra, which is a guided awareness that is geared to allowing you to fully relax and taking you into its nidra means sleep. So it's a yogic sleep. And so it is this beautiful healing practice. 10 minutes isn't a lot, but it can give you at least that time for your body to start to fully relax. Maybe I need to
Yeah.
move, right? Maybe I've got a lot of energy and it's pent up and I'm tense and I'm like, ah, and so I need to move. So I spend 10 minutes moving. Maybe that's through like at the beginning, a faster sequence of yoga or something, or maybe I go for a fast walk or a swim or something. And then towards the end, I start slowing it down, right? Because the idea is not to keep yourself up there. The idea is to release it and then start to bring yourself down. And the same with, when you're down here, you want to start down there and then
Yeah.
rest and then slowly build that energy up, right? So it's all about meeting yourself where you are. And if you're up here, then you want to go down here. And if you're down here, then you want to go up here, right? So
Yeah.
find that balance
We're
is what
trying
we're
to
looking
get
for.
back to neutral, like whether you're high or you're low, like you want to have the tools to get you back to neutral.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I call this my 10-minute method of stepping out of burnout. And I've created a little ebook out of it. So you can go onto my website, which is tessjewellarsen.coach/freebie. And you can, put in your information and I'll send it to you. It's free. And yeah, so just, play around with it. And if you want any support with this as well, by all means, please reach out. I offer 30-minute free, I call them burnout breakthrough calls. This is, just helping you take those first steps forward to really creating the life of balance. And I mean true balance, right? And this balance is integrated. It's not like half of this and half of that, right? True balance for you in the moment. I find
Right.
this is so, so important that we meet ourselves where we are right now.
Ah, I love that. Man, the tips you gave today, so good. The five senses and even like the breathing exercise with the fingers. My goodness. So, I mean, can you imagine? Like, go to her website, get that 10-minute makeover, because the nuggets that she dropped today, like, go get the rest of the stuff. So, oh my gosh. Thank
Thank
you
you so
so
much for having
much for
me.
being here today. I know the audience will definitely appreciate everything that you dropped today. And like, I just want to say in closing, for those of you who are whatever, wherever you are, right? Whether you're that high stress, that high sympathetic response, I need to tone it down a notch. But I know there are some people that are probably on the other end of burnout where,
Yeah.
you know, your state is on the lower side and you need a little bit more pick me up. Like you're just like, I don't have it, Kylie. I need more energy. Like I need to bring it up a notch. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
all of these exercises that we talked about today are for just helping you with regulation,
Mm-hmm.
regulating your nervous system, regulating your emotions. Like I just wrote a
Mm-hmm.
post the other day about, if we are emotionally on this roller coaster in our business and we're making decisions in our business, whether we're in sympathetic or parasympathetic, like, and if we're in those states making these decisions, it will affect our businesses in the long term. It makes sense for us to learn how to self-regulate so that we
Yeah.
can make decisions from a neutral space and not from, these high or low emotional states, because those decisions that we make in those moments will affect us and our businesses over the long haul. So just again, thank you, Tess, for being here today. And right, go check out her 10-minute makeover. Go grab that freebie, because this regulation piece is so important for your business. So thank you again.
Yes.
And we'll see
Thank
you all
you.
guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.